So on that note, I'll come to my talk title, which is What Would Jesus and Ernest Do? Okay, our exploration this month has been about recognizing and then living from the recognition that it really is all good in the neighborhood. And it really, really is. I truly believe that. We've done this in an eclectic way by touching on a number of topics, and today we're going to go on by continuing to be eclectic by taking a couple of different ideas and applying them to what would Ernest do question to test them. And what is the question? So do you guys remember those bracelets that people used to wear that said, what would Jesus do? And I think that's a really great question, but there's another good one, and that's what would Ernest, or heck, what would Ernest and Jesus do? And we can learn a lot from the way that these spiritual masters responded and approached life. So in preparation for this talk, I've had to refer to the New Testament quite a bit, and I think it's important for you to know which version of the Bible that I'm quoting, because as you know, there's many, many versions of the Bible out there, right? And this biblical stuff can get pretty darn confusing. For instance, a 10-year-old girl under the tutelage of her grandmother was becoming quite knowledgeable about the Bible. Then one day she floored her grandmother by saying, "Grandma, which virgin was Jesus' mother?" "What on earth do you mean?" asked the astonished grandmother. "Well," said the little girl, "was she the Virgin Mary or the King James Virgin?" So just to let you know, I'm not going to be quoting this morning from the King James Version, but which, is not the one that I use, but from the Lamsa Version here, which is translated from ancient Aramaic text. And that is really a great place, a great Bible to.
Let me see.
Oh, you want to see it?
Oh, it's the big one?
It's the big one. It says, the Holy Bible from the ancient Eastern text. It's George M. Lamsa's translation. Yeah.
Looks like a book class.
Looks like a year's worth of a book class, at least.
Depends on the size of the print. Huh?
Yeah, not guaranteed.
Pretty small, yeah. So, yes, I wanted more than this, and I had the desire to explore, and here's the other book that I used, The Gospel of Thomas, which is a guidebook for spiritual practice, all right. And this is the gospel that was discovered in Egypt over 50 years ago, but I have really never read the whole thing in completion. I've read bits and pieces of it, but never tackled the whole thing. So I've been reading that as well. And in the introduction to that, Lynn Bauman, who translated it, writes, "Jesus, the master of wisdom, an essential core lost to the West and replaced by Jesus, the object of dogma, has been recovered in the sands of Egypt. This gospel, long known by name, but having disappeared from history, was recovered and translated by scholars, causing great excitement and much consternation. It portrayed a very different Jesus from the one we have come to know through the centuries. In Thomas's gospel, Jesus is presented as the master of wisdom. But what is this wisdom? It is clear from a careful reading of Thomas that the wisdom tradition that it expresses is beyond the conventional wisdom of Israel. In it are strains of teaching that some see originating as far away as Taoist China, Buddhist Tibet, and Mazdain Persia, as well as aspects of Jewish wisdom and its nascent mysticism. If the Gospel of Thomas is representative, he may also have absorbed vast amounts of what he heard, synthesizing it into a new form according to some deep inner seeing. The protestation, "Where did you get all this?" gives evidence of the shock that this non-traditional wisdom had on the ears who had anticipated the expected. Thomas presents Jesus as the sage whose wisdom not only transcended local expectations, but who was capable of grasping something far more universal than we had been led to believe. Isn't it interesting? Some of those words could have been written about Ernest Holmes, who once said, "There is nothing new in religious science. The laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of Buddha, the morals of Confucius, the deep spiritual realization of the Hindus, all find an exalted place in religious science." So this morning, I want to present 3 questions that relate to experiencing all good in the neighborhood and look at what Jesus and Ernest had to say about them. Before we find out how Jesus and Ernest thought about these things, I'm going to ask or pose a question to you. Here's the first. Does anyone have any person, another person, that they dislike? That they would consider an enemy? Perhaps an individual, a government, ours or another, maybe not our government. My question, or my guess, is that you answered yes to some portion of that question. Am I correct? Yeah?
Government part.
Yeah, okay. The government part. Well, what would Jesus?
That's why he's skeptical.
Covers a whole.
It does kind of cover everything here. What would Jesus and Ernest have to say about that? Jesus is very, very clear at Luke 6, beginning at verse 32. For if you love only those who love you, what is your blessing? And if you do good only to those who do good to you, what is your blessing? But love your enemies and do good to them, so your reward will increase and you will become sons of the highest. Be therefore merciful, as your Father is also merciful. Judge not, and you will not be judged. Condemn not, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. And Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind, we shall do well to remember this lesson, how often we condemn when we should forgive, how often we censure when we might praise. What untold grief of heart might be relieved by words of cheer and forgiveness. Remembering that the Spirit holds no evil toward man, and that God is love, we should emulate this divine lesson and forgive all, that our hearts may be free from the burden of our own condemnation. Once, when Dr. Michael Beckwith was speaking on visioning, someone asked him, how do you stay aligned with your vision? His answer was a surprise to everyone there. He said, I pray for and bless my enemies. Those who have harmed me, those who have treated me unfairly or judged me harshly, I pray for them first. I pray for them first. Wow, radical forgiveness concept. Consider the notion that every situation in our lives, local or global, is here to help us evolve. They're all lessons for us. That's why it's called radical. So given these ideas, I invite you this morning to have a new perspective on the one you would consider an enemy. You will have a chance to do that in just a couple of minutes, but first, a couple more questions. Do you have something in your material life right now that you're worried about? Think about it for just a moment. Something in your material life right now that you're worried about. I'm thinking Marissa's thinking her dress. Dang, nothing better happened to that dress. She's getting married on the 12th of this month, the next month. Oh my gosh, tomorrow's July. 2 weeks to go. So get a picture of it in your mind as we listen to what our dynamic duo has to say about that. Isn't that great? Jesus and Ernest, their dynamic duo. The greatest spiritual prosperity lesson appears at Matthew 6:25-34. For this reason I say to you, do not worry for your life, what you will eat, what you will drink, nor for your body, what you will wear. Behold, is not life much more important than food, and body than clothing? Observe the birds of the sky, for they do not sow, neither do they harvest nor gather into barns, and yet your Father in heaven feeds them. Are you not much more important than they? Who among you, who by worry can add 1 cubit to his stature? That word doesn't do much good. Why do you worry about clothing? Observe the wild flowers, how they grow. Do they not get tired? They do not get tired, nor do they spin. But I say to you, not even Solomon with all of his glory was arrayed like one of them. Now if God clothes in such fashion the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow falls into the fireplace, is he not much more mindful of you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not worry or say, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we be clothed? For worldly people seek after these things. Your Father in heaven knows all of these things are also necessary for you, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things shall be added unto you. Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will look after itself. And Ernest Holmes says we must heal ourselves from worry. This tension is relaxed as we gain confidence in good, in truth, and in beauty. Faith must overcome fear, and strong statements of faith should be used to erase thoughts of doubt and worry that have assailed us. I have faith. I am faith. I abide in faith. All doubt and fear have left me. I have complete confidence. I do not waver nor falter in my faith, for I know that God, the living Spirit, is the only presence there can ever be. So let's repeat this together. I have faith. I am faith. I abide in faith. All doubt and fear have left me. All doubt and fear have left me. I have complete confidence. I have complete confidence. I do not waver nor falter in my faith. I do not waver or falter in my faith, for I know that God, the living Spirit, is the only presence there is or ever can be. Is the only presence there is and ever can be. So we go so far with our faith, right? We go so far with it. And then it falls off, right? We're doing really good. Things are great. And then it falls off. Have you ever thought something was over, ready to concede the game, and then at the last minute, the 3-point shot was, from the end of the court, made it, or the hole-in-one, or a surprise touchdown, or maybe a grand slam, and suddenly the whole game changed and turned around? I know Rich can probably tell us, and so can Rob, some of those where they thought, oh, let's just leave. It's the end of the 7th inning, and they're losing, they're down by whatever, and they're going out to the car, and all of a sudden you hear the stands go wild, and it's turned around. And we think to ourselves, oh, ye of little faith, right? How many times have we written something off as hopeless just at the last minute that it was about to explode into fruition? There's that story in The Time Traveler, The Traveler's Gift, where he ends up in heaven and there's all of these things in a storehouse, and he says, oh my gosh, are all these things, the things that are waiting to be given to the people on earth? And he says, no, all of these things in the storehouse are the things that people had almost invented, had almost created, but gave up. There was the cure for cancer, there was the cure for this, there was this machine that did this, and there was and they gave up right before it was to come into fruition. So it's an interesting perspective. David Owen Rich says Jesus' statement, oh, ye of little faith, really means, oh, you knuckleheads, right? So on to second part, question number 2. So what do I need to manifest? Matthew 7:7-11 says, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. For whoever asks believing receives. And he who seeks finds. And to him who knocks the door is opened. Who is the man among you who, when his son asks for bread, will hand him a stone? Or if he should ask for a fish, will hand him a snake? If therefore you who err know how much to give good gifts to your sons, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? Okay, so from the book, Thomas, what you are looking for is already here. You simply have not recognized it. It's already here. Holmes says, we now come to a definite teaching regarding prayer. We shall receive that for which we ask. This teaching implies the definiteness of spirit and mental work. God is intelligent mind and spirit, and there is a direct response from this universal intelligence to our intelligence. If we ask for bread, we shall not receive a stone. But we are told that we must ask, believing if we are to receive. Here again, we're meeting the law of cause and effect in the teachings of Jesus. Jesus points to the fact that if we, being human and consequently limited, know how to give good gifts to our children, how much more will God give good gifts to those who ask? And he explicitly tells us to ask directly for what we want. So there we are with our what we teach in Science of Mind. Get clear on what it is we're asking for, then ask for it believing that it's already been given, because it has. It has already been given, and it's up to us to accept it. So I've been listening to Edwin Gaines. Patricia Bright gave me a set of tapes, and I happened to, one of the blessings of having an older car that has a tape player in it still, is that I can listen to these tapes that have been gifted to me, which is great. And they're on prosperity, and she's just such a kick to listen to. And she spends a deal of her time talking about getting clear and being specific about what it is we desire to experience, and the importance of setting goals with a timeline. How many of us just say, someday I'll go to Europe, someday I'll have a house, someday we'll get a puppy? How many of us do that? We don't set an actual timeline. And do you think that she's right? Do you think we need to have those timelines with our goals? Being clear and specific is important, and because we have built our faith in the all good, let's even stretch and create some goals and intentions that seem beyond our ability to achieve them. See, it's one thing when you think, okay, yeah, if I really pull everything together, I could do this. But let's think of something that, it seems a little impossible. Let's stretch that spiritual muscle we have. I love the wisdom from the author Tracy Goss in her book, The Last Word on Power. She says, set impossible goals. Meaning goals we really don't know how to achieve. But then, that's not our business, is it? It's not our business, the how of it. Our business is to be clear and know what it is we want. Do you think I knew how to build a church? No. I had no clue. I just started teaching classes and sharing this teaching. And Suzanne arrived, and Rob came, and Dan, and we had just, everybody come. And
Rich was already there.
Rich was already here. Well, we found this together back in 1985. It was pretty. Mickey was here, and Thelma. It was just, it's just been amazing. And we've got Polly and Ginger, and it's like, wow, I had no clue, but we're doing this together, and it's awesome, and it's still happening, and I still don't know how. So there you go. The what it is ours, but the how is God's. The how is God's. And that is the key to remember. We don't have to know how because God knows. That's Daniel Nahmod. You know Daniel? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. He's got that beautiful song, I don't need to know, because God knows, right? If your brother Ishmael Tete says, if your dreams' goals don't cause you to shake in your boots, they aren't big enough. That's kind of an interesting thought. And we must remember that God knows nothing of big and small. God can produce $1 as easily as $1 million or $1 trillion. Look what he's done with our debt. Wow. Let's move to the last question. Have you ever come up against something so large that you thought to yourself, this is going to take a miracle to resolve it? When we got our tax bill last February, I thought that, boy, wow, this is going to take a miracle. I know I have several times when we got that tax bill. We've had jobs that just disappeared. Wow, what are we going to do now? Things that have just appeared that we weren't prepared for out of the blue. This is going to take a miracle to get through. So what would Jesus do? What would Ernest do? And our question is, how do we become miracle workers? And the answer is so beautiful. And it's in Thomas here. He says, when you are able to transform two into one, then you too will become son of humanity, and it will be possible for you to say to a mountain, move, and it will move. Holmes in The Science of Mind says, to the soul that knows its own divinity, all else must gravitate. When you know your own divinity, all else must gravitate. There was a story in the Science of Mind magazine some time ago written by Obadiah Harris. And he was driving Holmes around in his later years. So this is a while back. He was his driver. He caught Holmes' finger in the electric window, and Holmes' skin was thin, and his finger was pinched, and it bled. Harris felt terrible. Holmes says not to worry. He placed his other hand around the wound, mouthed some words, then took his hand away, and the wound was gone. So, and along with that, in this book here, when he talks about pressing his hand into the side of the mountain and creating, this is a Tibetan guru, monk, who went and this is 500 years ago, to show that the laws, he transformed the laws, and that's what miracles are, and it's the laws as we know them. There are maybe laws that we don't understand, but he pushed it, his handprint is still there. He became one with the mountainside, the cave side. And that's what we're talking about, is changing what it is we know to a higher knowledge. So in The Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes writes, in conclusion, what the world needs is spiritual conviction, followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principles than have him repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. Or more simply put by Jesus in Matthew, thus by their fruit you will know them. In other words, none of this means anything unless you can prove it, unless you can take these principles that you're being taught and actually see results. It is done unto you as you believe. And that's why we never say, we have no dogma. We don't ask you to believe anything other than there's only one. But we don't ask you to, try it. If it works for you, great, then you've proven it. Because we know it works for us. And that's why we're so excited about this. Because it's time to stop talking about what Jesus and Ernest did and start doing what they did. Jesus didn't say, come, I've come so that you can just worship me. He says, I have come so that you can know the truth. And he also said, this too you can do and more. Why are we not doing it? Why are we saying, oh, no, we would rather just pray to you and just celebrate all the things you did. That was 2,000 years ago. That's over. That's done with. That's not helping us right now. He said he wanted us to do what he was doing. Why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we doing what Jesus tells us to do? Why aren't we doing what Ernest has told us to do? And all of the other sages, from Buddhism to Taoism to Zoroastrianism, all of them taught the same thing. And yet, no, we want to watch, Dexter's coming on. So, we'll get to that after this is over. Okay, wait. Dancing with the Stars. Come on, folks,
American Idol.
So let's be, let's be the people to do this. Let's be the ones. Let's be the people to do this. Let's be the people who bring the all good to the neighborhood. You're already doing it with your smiles. So we'll just keep knowing it with our beliefs. My friend shared a poem that's on the wall of Charles de Gaulle Airport, which you'll get to see when you go there this next fall. And I want you to take a picture of it. It's written in black felt pen, and it's been there for years and years. And over the years, people have just come up and inked in where it has started to fade because they didn't want it to go away. And it reads, I need your hands. I live in heaven, so I have no hands to work on this earth, nor no feet to run the roads, no arms to embrace the children. So I have need of you, so I have made you. With your hands I can touch your brothers and sisters. With your eyes I can see their souls. With your feet I can walk and contemplate and reveal the kingdom right here on earth. With your compassion I can heal the wounded. With your presence I can comfort the afflicted. With your prayers I can free troubled hearts and spirits. And with you I can bring forth miracles. So tell me, can I count on you? Isn't that beautiful? I invite you to close your eyes if you choose. And first, call into a circle of love someone you have a difficult time loving. And second, I invite you to release fear and doubt over abundance. And third, get clarity and affirmatively proclaimed an intention and desire. And finally, open yourself up to a miracle by affirming your oneness with the all good. When you're ready to come back, open your eyes. Join the group. And know that it is done. And so it is.